Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Classics with Courtney. And today we are going to talk about the 1947 Christmas classic, The Bishop's Wife, starring Cary Grant, David Niven, and Loretta Young. We begin our story on a lovely snowy night, children singing in the distance and looking at Christmas presents through the window, when suddenly we see a man strolling along. But there seems to be something different about this character.
Oh, this is very kind of you.
It's a privilege.
Look at that, Mom. Look at the funny choo-choo train.
Come on now, darling, we have to go.
Oh, my baby. Oh, my baby. Oh, my baby. Oh, you saved her. Oh, thank God you saved my baby. Oh, how can I ever thank you?
Don't try. Just don't let it happen again.
I won't. I promise you I won't.
All right, remember that. Now on your way.
Yes.
I can't put my finger on it, but every time this guy shows up, there's like heavenly music that plays. Very peculiar. We then get to meet one of our main characters, Julia Brom, played by Loretta Young. She's looking at a hat, but yet she's also bumps into a friend of hers, the professor, played by Monty Woolley.
How's Henry? I haven't seen him in quite some time.
Oh, he's well, thank you. He's terribly tired and worried.
I imagine he's having difficulty raising money for the cathedral.
It's a wonderful contribution.
Nonsense. It might be called the widow's mite. Even worse the fact that I'm not a widow. But, Julia, this is no occasion for tears.
Stop snowing it.
Oh, if only we could spend Christmas back here where we were so happy with you and all of our old friends.
No.
I love Loretta Young in this role. I think she plays this character so beautifully, and I love how we see her and she seems happy, but we know something is wrong in her personal life. And I love the way she portrays that. It's very subtle, but she's very human. I really like that about her acting here. Julia runs home to help her husband, who is at a meeting, although unfortunately she's a little bit late. Things don't go well with the meeting with Mrs. Hamilton, played by the lovely Gladys Cooper. Then they end up having a fight about the cathedral being built, whether or not it is going to be built. And then we get kind of an interesting moment here.
God, what am I to do? Can't you help me? Can't you tell me? Oh, God, please help me.
I really love this scene here. It's powerfully acted, I feel, with David Niven, especially when he cries out, God help me, the music swelling, and the lovely picture that glows. I really love that effect. I think that was done very well, and I just all around really love this scene. It's definitely a real moment. Many of us have been there.
Who are you?
I'm an angel.
I beg your pardon?
I'm an angel.
That explains the heavenly music.
As you're walking through the streets of the city, you may suddenly look into a strange face. It may be the face of a murderer, or it may be the face of an angel. You have some problems with the building of this cathedral, haven't you?
Yes?
It's a fine cathedral. Ought to look magnificent up there on the top of Sanctuary Hill. Because the cathedral must be built?
Well, obviously that's the most important thing.
Or because Julia must be happy? You know, Henry, it's going to be difficult for me to help you until I'm sure what it is you really want.
Well, I got the
Cary Grant and David Niven really work well off each other here. The comedy is subtle but really funny, and David Niven knocks it out of the park. And Cary Grant is just so suave. You believe it. It's great acting. I always point this out when I watch this movie with my dad, especially this scene here. Debbie is played by Carolyn Grimes, who played Jimmy Stewart's daughter in It's a Wonderful Life. And the bully kid is played by Bobby Anderson, who played young Jimmy Stewart's character in It's a Wonderful Life. Dudley then offers the idea of going out to lunch with Julia. And although she's hesitant, things end up going the way Dudley wants. They go to eat. After their lunch, Dudley and Julia end up walking the streets. They bump into the professor, where he offers them to go to his house and have some sherry or some type of drink, where we get a bit of backstory to the professor.
Once I was madly... Once I was madly in love with a girl. My friends, she was a vision of delight, a pure enchantress.
Well, you never told me about that.
No, that's just the trouble. I never told her about it either. I couldn't find the words. So, she married an athlete, a great hulking oaf who never even reached the 8th grade. But he knew how to say, I love you.
It's an unwritten chapter in history. And you, Professor, will write it.
This is another wonderful effect. I never cease to be amazed when that wine just keeps coming up and coming up. I'm sure there's something simple that they did to, make that happen or something, but I really like the way they did this. It's one of my favorites in this whole movie. It's great. The following day, we see Henry really trying to communicate with his wife, but she seems to be talking about Dudley, which upsets him. We see everybody basically obsessing with Dudley at this point, and Henry is getting quite fed up with it. Henry then gets a phone call from Mrs. Hamilton, and she's willing to meet up with him and defer their differences. Unfortunately, this also means he would miss the choir of the boys in their smaller church. He says he will be there, but something ends up happening.
As we're now in such complete agreement, would you mind very much if we postpone the discussion of the details? Because Julia's waiting for me at St. Timothy's.
Oh, very well. We can go over the plans when we send for the transfer of the funds.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad we've settled our differences.
Is there anything the matter?
Well, it doesn't seem quite right, does it?
Oh, Stevens, there's something wrong about the bishop's chair.
Well, madam, it must be the new varnish. The finisher should have warned us.
After the church choir, which is done lovely, they get a taxi ride from James Gleason, playing Sylvester, another one of my favorite character actors. After riding in the taxi for a little bit, they stop and do some ice skating. And this is definitely a lovely scene. And you might even notice something very similar to another film here. They come home where Henry is steaming, piping mad. He gets into an argument with Dudley. Dudley disappears, and Henry is left to tell Julia somewhat about where Dudley ended up going.
Dudley! Oh, Debbie wants Dudley to come up and say goodnight to her. Where is he?
He's gone.
Where?
How should I know?
Oh, well, why did he leave so suddenly?
I got rid of him. I told him to go away. I fired him.
Why?
Because he's incompetent. He's no good at his job, and I cannot stand the sight of him.
However, this little disagreement does not stop Dudley from coming back, and he ends up changing a few things. One that is a very important detail.
We haven't forgotten that night down the centuries. We celebrated with stars hung on the Christmas tree and the cry of bells and gifts, especially with gifts. We buy them and wrap them and put them under the tree. You give me a tie. I give you a book. Aunt Martha always wanted an orange squeezer. Uncle Harry can use a new pipe. Oh, we forget nobody, adult or child. All the stockings are filled. All, that is, except one.
Once again, the effects of this film is beautiful. The Christmas tree decorating is, again, one of my favorites. I also like to point out that when Elsa Lancaster is decorating, she just literally unwraps it and then just flings it all on the tree and then backs away like, oh, that looks good. I'm thinking, what are you decorating? How do you decorate? I would love to know. Dudley then goes to Mrs. Hamilton's house, where once again we get some character development.
But tell me about Anna and you.
Alan Carteret was the only man I ever loved. We were engaged to be married. Then I got frightened. He had nothing and I was afraid of poverty. He went away. I never saw him again. I never loved George Hamilton. He was very much in love with me, and he was wealthy. I've spent a fortune honoring his memory in empty monuments.
This is where we get the change in Mrs. Hamilton about the cathedral. She's not worried about the cathedral anymore, but she wants to donate money to those who actually need it, being a very sweetheart. However, Henry does not take it this way and kind of goes on his own little walk to basically think.
Thank you, Mrs. Hamilton. I'll be home later for dinner or something. I don't know what time. Goodbye.
I love that the film does not shy away from Henry's true intentions either. Throughout the film, we're talked about this cathedral. He wants it built, but Mrs. Hamilton wanted it for her late husband, and he was fighting against that. But yet when he was talking to the angel later, Dudley, he kind of made it sound like, oh, Mrs. Hamilton's the one that wants it, and, she's a materialistic woman. But here, when Mrs. Hamilton tells Henry about her true intentions, he almost becomes disappointed. And it's kind of like he deceived himself into thinking, I did really want it. I wanted this to happen, and now it's not going to happen. He wanted something bigger, and instead of just being grateful for what he had. Again, this film can be very charming and very funny, but it also touches on a lot of things that I think we go through personally. A lot of us do take things for granted. We have things done, very nicely, but we want something better. Or, we cry out for the Lord whenever we're in trouble. There's a lot of these issues that the movie touches on that I don't think many people really notice. Henry then goes to his friend the professor's house in order to talk to somebody who is still on his side, and he is. Although the professor is able to tell him kind of how wrong he is, he's able to do it in a way that shows him that he cares for him and his wife. After talking to the professor, Henry rushes home just in time for Dudley to kind of put the moves on his wife, and Henry finally stands his ground.
Don't you realize, Henry, that as an angel I could quite possibly destroy you with a bolt of lightning?
I don't care. Julia means more to me than my life. I'm not going to lose her.
Henry standing up for him and his wife ends up showing Dudley that his work is done. They part ways, of course, in a positive, heartfelt way. And Henry gets ready to do his sermon on Christmas Eve with his wife.
All the stockings are filled. All that is, except one. And we have even forgotten to hang it up. A stocking for the child born in a manger. It's his birthday we're celebrating. Don't let us ever forget that. Let us ask ourselves what he would wish for most. And then let each put in his share. Loving kindness, warm hearts, and the stretched out hand of tolerance. All the shining gifts that make peace on earth.
There was The Bishop's Wife. What did I think of this movie? Well, it is one of my favorites. I actually got to see this when it first, was showing on Hallmark, I believe, when they were actually showing Christmas classics. I really love the acting in this film. The special effects are wonderful. The cast is great. Aside from the lead actors, you had great character side actors. Gladys Cooper, James Gleason, Monty Woolley, Elsa Lancaster. These are all great character actors. And hey, throw Thelma Ritter in there and you would have had a really great ball there, I think. But it's really well done. And I love the music score. The score is beautiful. Again, purchased on Amazon. It's one that I listen to every year for Christmas. It is a beautiful soundtrack. It is just a well-made movie. I really do love this movie. I watch it every year. I do recommend it. And let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this movie. And also know that apparently Cary Grant did not want the role of the angel. He wanted the bishop's role. I don't know why they switched that out. But I think they did pretty good casting because I love David Niven as the bishop. So I think that was done very well. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this review. Let me know in the comments below what you liked about The Bishop's Wife. And leave your requests down below too. I'd appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye! Have a great, wonderful day.